Shocking truth. 7 Buddhist wisdoms to find peace at midnight will haunt you forever. The clock struck midnight, and the cold silence permeated the air like a chilling fog. Claire could hardly breathe. A jolt of fear raced through her, clawing at her throat as she fumbled with the flickering candlelight. Was it the wind? Or something far more sinister lurking in the shadows? Her heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing in her ears as she stumbled upon an ancient scroll hidden deep in her grandmother's attic. The symbols danced before her eyes like fireflies, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. What was written there? Secrets, curses, and warnings whispered through the fabric of time, begging for disclosure. The smell of dust mingled with a hint of something sweet and acrid, as if the house itself held its breath, anticipating the unraveling of dark truths that shouldn't see the light of day. Claire couldn't take her eyes off the spiraling script, 7 Buddhist wisdoms that promised peace but hinted at destruction. A storm brewed within her gut. Was this knowledge truly a blessing, or would it pull her down into madness? Suddenly, a cool breeze gusted through, extinguishing her candle, plunging her into darkness. Panic buzzed in the air like electricity, and she strained her ears for shape in the silence. Just whispers. The shadows seemed to twist and writhe, and Claire could swear she heard a low voice, almost pleading. Was it frustration? Lament? What had she stumbled upon? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The candle flickered back to life, casting eerie shadows on the walls, but Claire still felt the chill embed in her bones. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As she backed away, a fragile sound broke through the tension, a low, haunting chant that seemed to echo through the very walls of the house. It felt ancient and powerful. What were the uses of these 7 wisdoms? Should she even dare to learn them? The weight of the scroll pulsed in her hands, seeping secrets into her skin. Every fiber of her being screamed to flee, yet something deep within her craved the truth. She took a step forward, closer to uncovering what lay ahead, but the shadows writhed again, whispering warnings. What was the price of knowledge? And what awaited her when she finally unveiled the truth about the midnight secrets? The chant rose and fell, wrapping around Claire like a chilling serpent. It was as if the very walls were breathing, alive with secrets meant to stay buried. Her heartbeat quickened, the sound thrumming violently in her ears. Could she really ignore the urgency of the warnings clinging to the air? With shaky hands, she unfurled the scroll, the parchment crackling like dry leaves underfoot. The ancient language twisted her thoughts, foreign yet familiar, a melody lost to time. Each wisdom promised tranquility, a balm for her soul, but the warnings weighed heavily. Would seeking peace unleash something dark within her? Claire, the voice was soft, almost a whisper, resonant with a familiar lilt that sent chills tumbling down her spine. She turned sharply, heart racing. Shadows danced and coiled in the corners of the room, but nothing emerged. Just silence again, an oppressive silence that screamed at her to leave. Then, the temperature dropped. A bone-deep cold seeped in, leaving her breath visible in the dim light. She clutched the scroll tightly, a lifeline in the storm brewing around her. The shadows flickered, forming shapes, lean figures, half seen but making her instincts scream. Among them, one figure stood out, its features obscured, but it seemed to watch her with intent. Was it human? Or something else? Seek the truth, Claire, the voice urged again, smoothing over her fears with an unsettling calm. You know not the power within the wisdoms. Embrace the journey, but beware the cost. Fear coiled tighter in her stomach, a gnawing awareness that she was on the cusp of awakening something eternal. Who are you? She called out, her voice quieter than she intended. I am a guardian of the scroll, bound to protect its secrets. Those who tread this path must face their fears. The shadows flickered once more, and Claire felt their pull. Part of her wanted to shrink away, to retreat to safety, But an undeniable force tugged at her heart, urging her to know more, to unveil what lay ahead. Just then, the low chant crescendoed, vibrating through her, stirring something deep within. Was it hope or despair? Her mind raced, envisioning faces and whispers from her past, echoes of sorrow that had settled like dust in her heart. What is your warning? She pressed, desperation threading her voice. Knowledge has a price. Each wisdom unlocked reveals a piece of your soul, and every truth holds a shadow. Her breath caught as the shadows swirled menacingly, forming an apparition that flickered before her eyes. A face emerged, mirroring her own with twists of anguish, a warning of what could become of her if lost in the pursuit of understanding. Will you find peace, or will it haunt you? The figure twisted out, leaving Claire drenched in panic. The shadows began to close in, thick and suffocating. With adrenaline surging through her, she clutched the scroll as if it were a lifebuoy in a raging sea, heart racing as she made a decision. She would confront the wisdoms, no matter what shadows lurked in the depths. She whispered the first incantation, the air charged around her, electricity and terror looming as she prepared to delve into the ethereal unknown. What awaited her on the other side of revelation? Would the promise of peace become her curse? The shadows seemed to answer, closing in like a tightly woven web. In that moment, Claire realized she was no longer just seeking answers. She was about to summon something monstrous. With the echo of a heartbeat swirling between fear and anticipation, Claire took a deep breath, ready to embrace the chaos that would inevitably follow. What had she set into motion? What price would she pay for the knowledge that awaited her? As the final syllable of the incantation slipped from Claire's lips, the scroll pulsed with life, the symbols lighting up like fireflies in the dark. An overwhelming rush of energy slammed into her, forcing her to stumble back, nearly losing her grip on the parchment. The shadows writhed, swirling like a tempest around her, images flickering at the edges of her vision, a kaleidoscope of fears. The room trembled, and ancient stones groaned, as if awakening from a long slumber. Claire's breath hitched. She felt as if the world was splitting apart at the seams. Had she made a mistake? Panic surged through her veins as the shadows thickened, coiling tighter, refusing to release their grip. You have invited it in, Claire. The voice echoed around her, deeper now, as if resonating from the walls themselves. You must face what lies in your heart. Darkness bubbled up, forming grotesque shapes that darted forward. She flinched as one particularly long shadow reached out, brushing against her cheek. An icy shiver shot down her spine, igniting a fierce resolve within her. She couldn't let fear dictate her fate. What do you want from me? She shouted, steadier than she felt, each word a tether to her sanity. Not what we want, but what you seek. The voice cracked like thunder, reverberating in the hollow space. You seek peace, but peace was never unaccompanied by sacrifice. Suddenly, the shadows began to dissolve, merging into a swirling mist that cloaked the room. Figures formed within that haze, each one resembling a painful fragment of her past. Lost friends, past loves, moments she had buried deep. Claire's heart jolted with recognition. One figure stepped forward, eyes hollow and haunting, a reflection of herself tangled in anguish. You thought you could bury us, it whispered, the sound slicing through the chilling atmosphere. But we never left. Stop, Claire cried, grappling with the emerging emotions, the tide of regret crashing hard against her defenses. She didn't want to see this, didn't want to confront the pain she had so desperately tried to escape. With every flicker, she felt a piece of herself unraveling, disbanding like summer leaves in the wind. But something deep inside her stirred a whisper of courage. I want to be a prisoner of my past, she declared, pushing back against the tide. If there's a truth I must face, let it be now. In response, the mist shifted violently, tendrils of darkness reaching for her like a mass of serpents, determined to drag her down. Claire held the scroll tightly. Its energy felt raw and potent. What's the price? She shouted, her voice fierce against the encroaching shadows. The shadows paused, as if considering. Your memories, a chorus of voices resonated, echoing in dissonance. Sacrifice them or live in their haunting. Her heart raced as the choice dangled before her like bait. Every moment, Every joy and pain she had ever felt hung in the balance. Each memory a string tying her to who she was. Could she let them go? Would she lose herself? I choose, she hesitated, her mind racing to grasp the implications. I choose to remember, but not to be defined by them. Her voice rang with defiance, slicing through the darkness like a knife. The shadows writhed at her proclamation, twisting angrily. In their fury, they began to surge forward, threatening to swallow her whole. But in the very center of the chaos, Claire found a flicker of light. I will not be consumed. A fierce pulse vibrated from the scroll as she unleashed her will, illuminating the mist like a scorching flame. The shadows screamed, a cacophony of despair and rage, but Claire stood firm, heart pounding, both terrified and exhilarated. As the light expanded, the darkness shrank back. She could feel the weight of her past dissipating, setting her heart free. But a terrifying thought drifted through her mind. What dark truth had she yet to uncover? With the shadows retreating but not entirely gone, Claire felt her resolve harden. She had survived the first test, but much lay ahead. What would the next incantation reveal? What monstrous truths awaited her in this treacherous dance of shadows? The swirling light from the scroll flickered, casting elongated shadows across the chamber as Claire gasped for breath. Each pulse of illumination revealed more grotesque figures lurking just beyond her reach, remnants of pain and regret that still clung to the edges of her mind. She took a step back, her heart drumming wildly in her chest, unsure of what horrors awaited her next. What comes next? She whispered to herself, voice trembling. The air was thick, heavy with something sinister. The shadows writhed, eager to reclaim their space, becoming more aggressive, as if they could sense her fear. Suddenly, the voice erupted again, booming and menacing. Your strength has shifted the balance, but this is only the beginning. It felt less like a warning and more like an invitation. A challenge. Show me, Claire shouted back, the fire in her belly ignited by the escalating tension. She braced herself, clutching the scroll, preparing for whatever manifestation of her past was about to rise. In an instant, the chamber transformed. No longer were the walls of her sanctuary embraced by the shadows. Instead, she stood on a dark, desolate street, echoing with the resentment and frustrations of those she'd tried to forget. Faces emerged from the darkness, not just the familiar figures of her past, but strangers too, lost souls, people who had crossed paths with her but never found peace, their eyes hollow yet hopeful. Why are you here? She asked, anger boiling under her skin. I cannot save you. Then you will always carry us, one of them replied, the voice soft but piercing. The sacrifices of your past are woven into your very being. You cannot escape them, Claire. Her mind reeled. What did they mean? The truth pierced through the veil of her bravado like a sharp blade. Memories surfaced in a frenzy, lost friendships and missed opportunities, all tugging at her heart, insisting she confront what she'd long buried. The scroll vibrated faintly, whispering powerfully beneath her fingers. Face us, another voice urged, this one filled with sorrow, or we will turn the darkness against you. Enough, Claire shouted, summoning every ounce of courage. I will not be a prisoner. I refuse to let my past dictate my path. But as she stood her ground, the figures began to coalesce, their forms merging into a single, amorphous entity, an embodiment of her most profound regrets. The weight of their presence pressed against her, each passing moment snatching bits of her breath away. Sacrifice, they chanted in unison, the ultimate price for liberation. What if I refuse? Claire replied, her voice barely above a whisper, the strength in her resolve wavering. Her heart raced, pounding against her rib cage like a trapped bird. She felt trapped in a game with no clear rules. The shadowy figure lunged forward, surrounding her like a storm. Heat radiated as despair clawed at her mind, threatening to engulf her entirely. You think rejection grants freedom? It hissed. You cannot escape what you are. Claire's instincts screamed for her to fight, to flee. Fear gripped her throat. But amidst the turmoil, she remembered her declaration. She could remember her past, but would not be defined by it. Drawing from deep within, she raised the scroll high. I choose my path, and I choose to fight. The words resonated, vibrating through the shadows like a shockwave. A blinding light erupted from the scroll, and the shadowy entity dissolved, revealing glimmers of the faces she had tried to escape. Suffering and joy are one. They echoed, fading like wisps of smoke. Yet as the chamber quieted, an unsettling calm fell over her. Had she truly won? Or had she merely pushed back the darkness for another day? The scroll lay quiet now, but Claire's heart raced with a new fear. What new secrets will this cursed tome unveil? A chilling breeze swept through the chamber, sending shivers down her spine. What had she awakened? Claire's breath caught in her throat as whispers filled the air again, softer this time, but more insistent. They floated around her like a thin fog, wrapping her in a cocoon of dread. You think you are free? You're still tethered, still lost. The walls of the chamber pulsed with a life of their own, undulating with her heartbeat. The scroll quivered in her grasp, as if it were alive, begging to reveal more. She hesitated, uncertainty flooding her thoughts. What would happen if she dared to look deeper? It was one thing to stand up against her regrets, but facing them head-on? That felt like inviting a storm into her sanctuary. Suddenly, a jagged fissure opened in the air before her, streaking a luminous blue light across the stone. Each pulse of light sent a jolt through her, electrifying the air around her. It beckoned, drawing her closer, and with it came a surge of memories, moments of love twisted with loss, joy intertwined with suffering. Stop, she gasped, gripping the edges of the scroll tighter. I don't want this. Yet the apparition of her past loomed larger, distorting into a grotesque silhouette that mirrored her turmoil. You must confront us, Claire. Ignoring us will not erase your shadows, it warned. The heavy weight of despair added to her emotional burden, dragging her lower. It was suffocating, like a thick fog pressing against her chest. Confront what? You're just echoes of what I can't change, she shouted, though her voice trembled. The shadows laughed, an eerie, hollow sound that echoed off the walls. What if that's exactly what you need to change? As doubts swirled, Claire felt a familiar figure seep through the darkness. A friend she had abandoned, their eyes filled with betrayed hope. You left me behind, Claire, the figure whispered, voice choked with longing. I needed you, and you chose to look away. Pain shot through her heart, piercing and true. I didn't know how to help you, Claire whispered, feeling the walls close in, bursting with memories of that fateful day. Your choice to turn away was a sacrifice. You condemned me to solitude. For a brief moment, Claire felt overwhelmed, a visceral horror climbing within her. The shadows around her surged with her anguish, eager to drown her in despair. No, she shouted, her voice cracking. I can't bear this anymore. In that moment of desperation, something shifted within her. It was a flicker of hope, threatening to break free. I acknowledge my pain, she declared, the scroll feeling heavier in her grasp, but I will not live as its prisoner. With renewed determination, she lifted the scroll once more. You are part of me, echoes of my choices, but I choose growth. Light surged from the scroll again, infusing the chamber with a warm glow that pushed back the shadows. The silvery glow enveloped the figures, merging them into one bright light that burned away the darkness. But as the last remnants of despair faded, a new presence emerged from the light, a figure cloaked in shimmering silver, their face obscured. You've only scratched the surface, Claire. Your true journey begins now, the figure said, their voice low and resonant. Claire's heart sank anew, a chill creeping up her spine. What do you mean? She hesitated, fear bubbling at the back of her mind. Embrace the truth you've hidden. Only then will you understand the price of true freedom, they warned, extending a hand towards her. Claire stepped back, heartbeat racing, thoughts whirling. Did she dare to accept this new challenge? What truth awaited her, hidden beneath layers of grief and guilt? As the light shifted, illuminating parts of the chamber she'd never seen, Claire took a deep breath. What lay beneath the surface was yet to be uncovered, and a new fear gripped her. What if this truth was darker than her past? The shimmering figure remained still, its visage cloaked in light, yet Claire sensed its intensity. The tension thickened, wrapping around her like an unwelcome embrace. What do you really want from me? She questioned, voice barely above a whisper. Your past is a map, the figure replied, each word infused with an urgency that sent a ripple down her spine. Follow it, and you'll find what you seek or lose everything. Panic flickered across her mind like a flame catching dry leaves. Lose everything? she echoed, heart racing faster, echoing in her ears. What do you mean? For a heartbeat, the figure hesitated, as if weighing its words. Your truth, your deepest fears and desires are intertwined. Confront them, or stay shackled to your regrets. Claire felt a swell of emotion crash over her, an overwhelming tide of fear and anger. But I have faced my past. I've done everything I could to move on. Tears sprang to her eyes, mixing with the shimmering light. Why can't it just be over? Because you Haven T opened the door, it continued, advancing slightly, light pulsing with its movements. Your pain masks your power. It's time to see beyond the fog. She felt her pulse thump in her temples. What door? The air crackled again, illuminating the chamber further. Claire squinted, catching glimpses of doorways she had never noticed, each one seething with shadows, harbingers of the truths she had kept locked away. You need to choose, the figure urged, its tone inviting yet insistent. Will you walk through the door of your past to grasp your future? Standing before those options felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. She was terrified of what might exist on the other side, yet a small voice inside whispered that it was her only chance at freedom. Claire glanced at the figure, searching its obscured face for anything that might reveal the consequences of her choice. What happens if I go? Then you will finally understand what it takes to break the chains anchoring you, it said, voice resonating like a distant bell tolling in the dark. But if you don't, you'll remain lost forever. The words echoed through her mind, and with each repetition, they fueled her resolve. She took a step forward, propelled by the raw, desperate hope that pulsed through her veins. I will go. The figure nodded, an approving light rimming its shape. Then let the truth reveal what you need to see. Taking a deep breath, Claire approached one of the doors. Its surface shimmered, flickering between solid and vaporous, inviting and forbidding at once. As she reached out, an icy wave of doubt washed over her. Was she truly ready for whatever lay behind that threshold? The door swung open with a creaking lament, revealing a swirling darkness inside. A whirlwind of memories swept towards her, each one sharper and brighter than the last, a cacophony of laughter, cries for help, moments of triumph, and simmering betrayals. Remember, the figure said, barely audible over the chaos. Embrace what you find. Freedom lies within the truth. With trembling hands and a heart pounding like a drum, Claire stepped across the threshold, plunging into her own storm. The door slammed shut behind her, and she felt the darkness envelop her. Yet it was a familiar weight she had feared for so long. As memories danced around her, shadowy figures from her past emerged, unearthing hidden sorrows and buried secrets. Confusion splashed against the walls of her mind. Each fragment pulled her deeper into despair, yet Claire felt a flicker of hope kindling within her. Face us, Claire, they echoed, voices weaving through the tempest. You can't run from your truth. Breath hitching and heart racing, she steadied herself. I'm done running, she shouted into the void, raw emotion bursting forth. I'm here to confront what I've avoided. But in that moment of defiance, another shadow loomed, in all-consuming darkness that sent shivers coursing down her spine. You think you're ready? It hissed, voice gravelly and sharp. Let us see if you can withstand the truth that comes next. Dread pooled in her stomach. A whisper of fear that warned her to retreat. But Claire stood her ground, resolve tightening around her heart. Show me, she demanded, whatever it is. What awaited her next was shrouded in the very shadows she had long avoided. Would it shatter her sense of self, or offer the redemption she yearned for? And would she survive the reckoning that was about to unfold? The darkness thickened around Claire, a living entity wrapping around her, pulling her ever closer into its depths. Memories surged, each one more vivid and piercing than the last, tangled moments of joy marred by grief. Claire's chest tightened as she recognized faces long buried in her mind. Do you really think you can face what lurks within? The gravelly shadow whispered. These memories, they're the demons you've neglected. No longer. Suddenly, a flurry of images assailed her senses. She found herself in her childhood home, sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, laughter bouncing off the walls. Then, in the next heartbeat, she was at her father's funeral, the silence deafening, punctuated by muffled sobs. Her heart raced, memories twisting together like a spiraling vine. No, Claire shouted, her heart hammering wildly as she fought the tide. I want to be pulled under. But the darkness responded with a chilling laugh, the sound reverberating around her, echoing her insecurities. You cannot escape what you haven't faced, Claire. Fury ignited within her. I said I'm done running. She felt the energy shift, a spark igniting as rage replaced dread. You want to show me the truth? Fine. Let us do this. With every ounce of willpower she possessed, Claire tore through the veil, the shadows pushing at her like a taut cord ready to snap. She reached for the shifting memories, gripping them tightly. The faces emerged, shifting, ever familiar yet distant: her sister, Amelia, the best friend who had betrayed her trust, even the boy she never got to say goodbye to. Let them come, she asserted, forcing the shadowy figures forward. I want to see it all. I want the truth. In a rush, the images became clearer. One stood out, piercing through her like a shard of ice: her last argument with Amelia. The words stung anew, a cacophony of anger and tears. You'll regret this, echoed around her, the weight of the fight threatening to crush her spirit. That a new figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette cloaked in grief. It was Amelia. Claire's heart sank as she stepped closer, the agony of regrets clawing at her throat. Amelia, she murmured, her voice choked. Why did you push me away? Her sister's voice was pained, reverberating like a ghost begging for resolution. You said I didn't understand, but I just wanted to help you. Tears streamed down Claire's face. I didn't want you to see me broken. The shadow loomed over them, a silent watcher, feeding off Claire's turmoil. This is just the beginning. Can you bear to face what lies deeper? Claire felt the pressure swell around her. What could be worse than this? She shouted defiantly. I need to know. But a nagging dread coiled in her gut, whispering doubts about what else was buried below. The darkness responded with a deafening silence, as if weighing her courage against the treasures of her torment. Time stretched, thickening the air around her. Would she embrace both pain and healing, or would fear push her back? Only you can unlock the next door. The figure of light flickered, momentarily illuminating a faint outline further in the shadow. Courage and clarity await, but they come with a price: heart pounding. Claire realized the urgency: each second spent in hesitation risked being consumed by the shadows. Could she truly show her sister the love she had shunned? With resolve blazing in her heart, she stepped toward the flickering light, the enormity of love fighting through the despair constricting her. Show me the truth, she cried out again, as the shadowed figure loomed closer, ready to unleash the next layer. And then, as she almost reached that flickering edge, a haunting laugh shattered the air, a voice distinct and chilling, echoing through the darkness. You think this is just your story, Claire? What if I told you it's only a piece of something much bigger? Her breath caught in her throat, mind racing. What did it mean? What had she entangled herself in? The boundaries of her past began to blur, leaving Claire teetering on the brink of everything she held dear. Would she unravel the truth, or stumble into a fate darker than she ever imagined? As she plunged into the flickering light, Claire felt an exhilarating rush, like a jolt of electricity coursing through her veins. Yet, the laughter rolled around her, sinister and mocking, sinking deeply into her bones. The shadows shifted restlessly, as if waiting for her to step further into their grasp. Where are you taking me? She called into the void, panic creeping back into her voice. You shall see the threads connecting your fate, the phantom voice echoed, weaving through the gloom. Every choice, every wound, they bind you. Your fear has kept the truth hidden. Churning with uncertainty, Claire squared her shoulders. No more games, she muttered, determination hardening her resolve. She had opened the door. Now, she had to walk through it. The light pulsed, leading her away from the painful memories of her past and into a new landscape. With every step, she felt an undercurrent of dread growing stronger. The shadows reduced to glimmers behind her, hinting at the horrific memories she'd uncovered only moments ago. But now, Claire stood within a new realm, of foggy expanse where distant shapes flickered like distorted reflections in a fissured mirror. Suddenly, the figures around her coalesced. Faces emerged from the mist, both familiar and foreign, weaving a tapestry of uncertainty. An elderly woman with kind eyes, a teenage boy with laughter on his lips, and a laughable schoolyard bully, smirking as if just waiting to pounce. Each face carried weight, memories buried beneath layers of sorrow and regret. Do you recognize them? The gravelly voice flickered through the mist like smoke. These souls are part of you, a fragment of your choices, your consequences, your past traumas. Guilt began to swell within Claire. I tried to forget, she said weakly, her throat tight. I can't bear the pain of their memories. The laughter erupted once more, cold and bitter. What if the truth lies within that pain? It taunted. What if you could heal that which has scarred you? Claire's heart quickened. Heal, she echoed. Her thoughts raced. But how? They're gone. Not gone merely waiting for acknowledgement. As the voice twisted in her ear, the figures around her advanced, each face bearing a flicker of emotion. Each one was a connection, a story unfinished, a wound untouched. The elderly woman stepped closer, her gentle hand reaching for Claire. I bore your burdens too. My dear, you can release us. But first, you must confront the fear that shrouded our stories. Love and loss collided in Claire's chest, tightening like a vice. Release? She whispered, breathless. The thought of facing the hurt she had long buried sent a tremor through her body. Yes, release, the voice wrapped around her. But there's a catch, it trailed off, making the air grow thick with tension. Claire could feel the weight of expectation pressing against her, a prelude to an unexpected reality. What's the catch? She demanded, a tremor of fear sneaking into her tone. Release must come from acceptance. Accept what they carry. But beware, acceptance may expose the darkest corners of your soul. A chill swept over Claire as the shadows shifted, clouds in a stormy sky. The faces began to blur, dissolving like sandcastles in the tide. She felt herself caught, helpless and vulnerable, as hazy flashes of her life raced by, scenes spun wildly, painful moments crashing against one another like waves. And then, a blinding light engulfed her, pulling her back to a moment from her childhood, her mother, smiling, hands full of dandelions. But underneath it all lay a heaviness, a flickering shadow of grief. Claire gasped as it struck her. This wasn't just about her. It was about everyone she had loved and lost. What do I have to lose? She wondered aloud. But the gravity of the darkness pressed against her heart. Would she have the courage to accept the truth that could set her free? In the heartbeat that followed, the shadows whispered again, and the air crackled with an electric promise. Losing everything, what if it was the key to gaining what she needed the most? With her heart racing, Claire took a step closer to the light, aware that the answer she sought might change everything forever. Would she have the strength to face the revelations waiting just beyond? The light enveloped Claire, warm and inviting yet undeniably eerie. It was an odd contradiction, the kind that made her heart race and her palms sweat. Time twisted around her, stretching moments into lifetimes filled with memories both painful and poignant. In the brilliance, she caught glimpses of faces, each revealing emotions that twisted her gut into knots. But there was no time for hesitation. Except, she whispered to herself, the word almost a mantra. Suddenly, the vision solidified again, and the elderly woman emerged from the fog, her eyes holding a depth that pulled Claire closer. You must face your fears, Claire, she said softly, compassion lacing her tone. Their stories are woven into yours. Only then can you truly release what burdens you. The teenage boy stepped forward, his laughter now a ghostly echo. You abandoned us, Claire, he accused, his voice sharp yet heart-wrenching. You ran away from the truth. No, I didn't abandon anyone, Claire shouted, the weight of his words crashing over her like a tidal wave. Anguish clawed at her chest. I was trying to protect myself. His laughter faded into the shadows, replaced by the schoolyard bully's sneering grin. Protect yourself? He scoffed. You think ignoring the pain makes it go away? You buried it alive. Each word felt like a dagger, digging into the core of her being. Stop, she yelled, fighting against the swirling mists. I can't face it all. The air around her thickened, the shadows angling menacingly. They swirled with indignation, and Claire felt their growing anger. The laughter morphed into whispers, taunting her with secrets. Will you sacrifice your comfort for your truth? The gravelly voice echoed ominously, and then it struck her. She could either scream and perish in her shame, or she could confront her fears head-on. Though her heart raced, she felt the weight of the souls around her, each yearning for recognition, each longing for release. With trembling hands, Claire reached out toward the elderly woman. Show me, she implored, her voice breaking. Show me what I need to see. In an instant, the landscape shifted again. The fog peeled back like a worn curtain, revealing a scene from her past, a darkened room, filled with shattered glass and echoing screams. The visage of her mother surfaced, fear flashing in her eyes. It wasn't your fault, Claire, she implored, but despair cloaked her words. Claire's chest tightened. But I should have done something. The shadows pressed closer, heavy with silence. No more excuses. The voice urged, relentless. You've held on to their pain for far too long. Face what you feared most, or risk losing them forever. Her breaths quickened as panic gnawed at her mind. This was the confrontation she had dreaded. The hidden truth was unraveling, and she could feel the resolution of their stories beckoning her closer. What was hidden in her heart could no longer remain buried. As the shadows swirled in a whirlwind of chaos, Claire felt a surge of defiance swell inside her. She would not run anymore. I accept you, all of you, she shouted, unsure of what exactly that meant, but hopeful that this act of bravery would lead her to the liberation she so desperately sought. In that moment, the world around her shifted one last time, assembling into living echoes of all her fears and losses. They gathered before her like a jury awaiting judgment. As their eyes met hers, a flicker of hope ignited. Is this my truth? She said, bewildered, but with an undercurrent of conviction. What would happen when she finally faced the darkness head-on? Would this revelation open the door to freedom, or unleash a storm that would drown her in the remnants of her past? The shadows danced ominously, poised to reveal the next stage of her journey. Would Claire's acceptance be her salvation, or would it plunge her deeper into despair? The shadows twisted violently, coiling around Claire like feral beasts ready to pounce. Her pulse hammered in her ears, each thump echoing her mounting fear. But she stood firm, fueled by a fierce resolve. I accept you, she shouted into the void. I embrace all that I am. Show me the truth. The air crackled with energy as the figures surrounding her shifted, their features sharpening into focus, revealing the fragments of her past. The elderly woman, the teenage boy, the bully, they were all stitched together by pain and regret. Realization surged through her. These souls represented pieces of herself she had long forgotten, buried under layers of guilt and sorrow. Face us, the gravelly voice echoed, demanding her attention. This is your reckoning. You cannot escape the truth. The world around her shimmered and wavered, then settled into a stark, crumbling room. It was a house she recognized, her childhood home, filled with echoes of laughter and the whispers of absent voices. Claire's breath caught as memories flooded her senses. Her fingers twitched, reluctant to reach out. Yet she knew she had to engage with the pain. Why are you here? She whispered, voice trembling under the weight of reality. Because you left us behind, the figures replied, sorrow woven into every word. You ignored what was lost, but also what could be found. What do you mean? Claire asked, heart racing as she glanced from one familiar face to another. I tried to move on. I didn't know how to carry the burden of your memories. By denying us, you've imprisoned yourself, the boy said, his voice now softer. But we're still here, waiting for you to acknowledge our stories. Tears pricked at the corners of Claire's eyes. I don't want this. I don't want to hurt anymore. The elderly woman stepped forward, her eyes expressing compassion. But Claire, your pain carries wisdom. Only by acknowledging your hurt can you find healing. You must release what burdens you before you can fully embrace the light. Release, Claire echoed, the word rolling off her tongue. What does it mean to truly release? The figure smiled, a radiant light flickering from her form. It means finding closure, but it will demand a sacrifice. You have to confront your truths, no matter how dark. All or nothing, the gravelly voice boomed, shaking the very foundation around them. The choice is yours. With a deep breath, Claire squared her shoulders. I accept what I've buried. I will no longer allow those painful moments to control my life. As if encouraged, the figures slowly merged, flickering like candlelight, swellings of energy surging around her. Claire stepped closer, feeling the warmth from their forms wrap around her like a comforting embrace. I will remember you, she vowed, not as shadows, but as pieces of who I am. I owe you that much. Will you forgive yourself? The boy asked, hurt swimming in his eyes. I will try, Claire admitted, trembling. I will release the shame, but take the love. With that intention clear in her heart, the room erupted with a blinding light. The shadows recoiled, screams of anguish mingling with desperate cries for acknowledgement. Claire felt herself engulfed in the brilliance, her lungs filling with clarity and purpose. I am not defined by my mistakes, she shouted, her voice ringing triumphant through the chaos. I am not afraid of you any longer. The figures shimmered, dissolving into a burst of energy, leaving behind soft, glowing memories that drifted like petals in the wind. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth spread through her like a balm, releasing her doubts. When she opened them again, the remnants of the room had transformed, no longer suffocating with shadows, but alive with light. Claire stood alone, yet strong. The remnants of fear lingered, but she could breathe. The weight on her chest had lifted. She gripped the now dormant scroll, its magic finally palpable in a gentler way, not a curse, but a guide. Thank you, she whispered into the air, her voice filled with gratitude. I will carry you all with me, and the lessons you taught me will make me whole. And as the last echoes of the shadows faded away, Claire stepped outside into the night. The universe seemed to thrum around her in harmony, each breath inviting peace into her heart. This is my journey, not to erase my past, but to honor it. A relieved smile broke free, the stars twinkling overhead as if joining her celebration. With the dawn on the horizon, Claire felt hopeful and liberated. She had faced the chaos and danced with her demons. Now, she was ready for the next step. The future that awaited her was luminous and unbound. Now, listen up, my amazing friends. This is your moment. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss the next mind-blowing story we have lined up for you. Smash that like button now to keep our community growing. Your support means the world. And flood the comments section with your reactions to this intense conclusion. What are your thoughts? What do you think comes next for Claire? You might even spark a great discussion. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey. Together, let's create a community that thrives on storytelling.